Today we're going to be talking about Chief Justice John Marshall. Who was John Marshall? John Marshall was the longest serving Chief Justice. He reigned through 6 presidents, starting with John Adams. John Marshall was famous for increasing the power of the federal government, making the federal government strong. He also was a Federalist, which explains why he was so adamant about exerting and emphasizing the power of the federal government over the states. And again, one thing that he did was to decrease the power of the state governments through his various court decisions. So, let's talk about a few of his court cases that really exemplify how he increased the power of the federal government. So, let's begin with Worcester v. Georgia. In Worcester v. Georgia, John Marshall ruled that the Cherokee Nation was a distinct community. They had laws of their own, and that the laws of Georgia had no force over the Cherokee Nation in Georgia. So if you can see in that picture, I have the Cherokee Nation tribe there and a big X through the state of Georgia. Now, when Andrew Jackson, who will be talking about this unit, heard of this, he said, John Marshall has made his ruling, now let's see him enforce it. So I think you can predict that he's going to come up against some opposition with this ruling. Another important court case was Marbury v. Madison. Marbury v. Madison was on your Unit 1 vocabulary, but we're going to go over it again. This was his first important court decision in which he established the doctrine of judicial review. Basically, what that means is that he upheld a decision which declared a law unconstitutional. That means, basically said that that law is not fair and had to be repealed or could not go into action. Here you can see a picture of a little person with like a judge robe on saying, hey, not fair. And he represents the judicial branch. Because although Congress makes the laws, the judicial branch can declare a law unconstitutional. Now our next court case here is McCulloch v. Maryland. Basically, the State Bank of Maryland tried to tax the federal government. I'm sorry, the state of Maryland, excuse me, I said that wrong. The state of Maryland tried to tax a federal bank that was located within that state. John Marshall ruled that states cannot tax the federal government. So even if a federal building is located within a state, that state cannot charge tax to that federal government. This basically established the fact that the federal government and their laws reign supreme over state laws. So you can see in this picture like a state bank here, and then you have the federal government saying, don't even think about it. Don't even think about taxing the federal government, because the federal government reigns supreme over the state banks. And the last important court case here is Gibbons v. Ogden. Congress can regulate interstate commerce or trade between states. Basically, if 2 states want to trade between one another, Congress has the right to regulate how they trade and taxes on those trades and whether or not they're authorized. So, overall, John Marshall, what was his contribution to American history? Well, as the longest-serving Supreme Court Chief Justice, he increased the power of the federal government through many of his court cases. In doing so, he decreased the power of state governments. Hope you can answer the questions that are located on Echo, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great evening.